Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Welcome back to Adobe Live, where you can tune in for all of your creative inspiration. So we have guests from different creative fields each week, and today is day 1 of 2 in our UI UX live stream. So right here, I've got Chimmy Kalu here for 2 hours, and I'm your host, Andrea Epi. So welcome to everyone in the chat. Starting to see some of you guys pop up over there. Hello, Richard. We've got Sam, Raphael, Noor. He must be biking because he's got a lot of biking emojis there or something. We've got Frank, Jack. Welcome, everyone. Awesome. So we've got a very full day planned. So let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule, see what we've got going on. So as I mentioned, right now we are here from 12 to 2 p.m. And then right after this, we will have the XD Daily Creative Challenge with Howard Pinsky, and that will be from 2 to 2:30. And lastly, today we'll have Design in the Dark with Julia McNamara and Andrew Hockrattle. So very busy day. I'm very excited to be with you here today, Chimmy. And yeah, so during the stream today, we're going to be doing an artist spotlight. That will be at the end of this stream, so 95 minutes into this stream. So stick around. Let us know if you want to be featured in the future or if you want to recommend a friend. And you can check out that Artist Spotlight tab over in the chat panel on the right over there in Behance. And if you have any other questions, just let one of the moderators know and we can help you in the chat. All right, so everyone, let us know where you're from. We'll be checking that throughout the stream today. As always, if you have any questions, let us know. Without further ado, okay, Chimmy, I'm very excited to be joined by you today. I'll go ahead and just let you introduce yourself and talk about kind of what you do and what your plan is for our 2 hours during this stream today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chimmy, and I will be taking you through the basics of prototyping, into some more advanced prototyping with XD. A little bit about me. I work as a product designer at World Remit, working across responsive web and apps. I've also previously worked at Condé Nast International and British Airways. Today, we're just going to focus a little bit on my process. So I use prototyping throughout my process, right from conceptual wireframes and trying to bring my stakeholders along. I'll try to do effectively an intro to XD with that process while we mock up our cycling app. So over the last few weeks, I've been trying to buy a bicycle, and I've spent a lot of time on cycling websites, and they're not my favorite at the moment. So I thought I'd take on the challenge and see if I could do something better. We'll add some prototyping. So I'm going to start with sort of the basics of prototyping, which will sort of intersperse throughout the journey. And then by tomorrow, we should add a bit more functionality and improve the UI from that conceptual basis. I love interacting. I love questions. So ask me anything that you want throughout. I'll try to pay attention to the chat.
Awesome. So excited. And now I understand why someone in the chat had the bicycling emojis. It was because you're doing a bike app. They were already ready. Awesome.
I am doing a bike app. So there is no 100% plan here. We're going to start with what I usually start with, which is setting up at least an artboard, sometimes several. Throughout today, I'll try to use the basic control. But sometimes I might use the shortcuts, so I'll tell you if I use the shortcuts through today. So starting with A, which is for artboard, and I'm going to select a mobile artboard. So I want an iPhone X, which is what I have. So let's move this a little bit out of the way. And so I'm the kind of person that names my artboards because I
good for
tend
you.
to work
Very
with other
organized.
people. And I think it's quite rude to get files with unnamed things that you then have to figure out. So I'll just put a few more artboards, which I'm just duplicating with a Command D, so that we can see. So I want a splash screen, I want a home screen, and I also want some sort of shop, I guess. So we'll start with those for now. So for the first round, for the concept, I don't tend to spend too much time on the UI. I tend to focus on the content so that I can sort of convey the idea really quickly. And why I do this is because sometimes I want to make sure that the flow makes sense before I start spending more time on the UI. So I'll try to mirror that natural process as we go. Right, so you can see the toolbar on the side here. So I can insert a number of things onto the page. Like I said, I tend to use shortcuts, so forgive me if you don't catch the move as I do it. So I'm going to start, actually no, I want some text because I'm just going to put a placeholder for the logo that we'll insert later. If I want to switch between the text tool, so text is T, and the move tool, I just go with a V, which is the shortcut to get me back to the move tool. Inclusive
We've got
design.
a question in the chat. Oh, sorry.
Yes, of course.
Ignacio was asking if this is going to be recorded, and yes, it is. It's on YouTube as well. We recommend that you do keep chatting over here in Behance just so we can see the chat personally. But yep, it'll be on YouTube afterwards if you have to duck out early or anything.
Great. I might look at it later.
Yeah.
So placeholder, I tend to try to use sort of color styles as I go, just so I remember at a glance what's what. So because this is placeholder text, I don't want it to stand out. I don't want it to be too high contrast. So I'm just going to go with a hex value of 999999, which is enough for me to see it, but also enough for me to remember that I've got to replace it when I move on to the concept. Now, I believe that products should be clear. So since we don't have a logo yet, you might not know what the app does. And I think I'm going to create a strap line. So making buy bikes as easily as you ride, which is not the experience that I had as I was trying.
Did you end up finding one, or are you still looking?
I did find one.
Okay, good.
It's great.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. I went out for a little ride on Friday, but it's got a small problem in that the tire, which is supposed to be puncture proof, has now gone down.
Are you serious already? Oh
so
no.
I know. I'm going to talk to them. So we'll test a feature support very quickly with the website. In terms of typography, I'm just going to do a little bit of styling as I go, just so that I remember the hierarchy of things on the page. So because this is my splash screen, I'm going to set the text to 24 pixels and then take it up to a bold. And again, because it's something that I want to keep, I'm going to bump up the color contrast. So it's very different from my placeholder. So I'm just going to go with a black, which is 6 zeros. Now, I tend to leave margins, and I don't leave this to the end because I'm just one of those people that likes symmetry. So you can see that I just used this area text here. This allows me to set the width and the height of my text. If I left it on this other point text, then the sort of text box grows in line with the text itself. So Once I've set it to area text, I can change the size. So this is an iPhone X, which means that 24 pixels each side will give me 327 in the middle. And I will center the text and bump it up to 32. So here we go. And what I'm going to do now is create. So I'm going down to the bottom left. Bear with me, people. I literally have to go left and right to figure out left and right. So
sorry, my microphone's in the way, but I'm trying to wait.
So at the bottom, there are 3 icons, one for plugins, one for assets, and one for layers. I want to go to the assets because I want to create a character style. Now, character styles are one of the features that these design tools, XD, create so that you can design faster. So later on, when I change my character style, I'm only going to have to do it in one place as opposed to 100 different places as I use them. So that's kind of the first screen done.
Nice.
I'm going to the home screen now, and because it's an app, one of the first things that I want to design is sort of my navigation bar, which will be at the bottom. I'm using the R again, which is my shape tool, to create a rectangle. And you can see sort of those guidelines that appear as you hover over. Those let you know whether you're right at the bottom of the artboard. I can also use these controls at the top to make sure that I've aligned that rectangle right at the bottom, right in the hit zone of my customer's thumbs. I'm going to set this to a faint background, so F4, F4, F4. And in case you're wondering how I'm so familiar with some of these grays, I used to work at a brand called New Look, and their color palette was lots of gray, black, white, with the occasional accent color. So I've got quite good at
Interesting.
knowing
I was
the
going
range.
to ask how you know all those by heart and stuff.
It's a lifetime of playing with these grays in that company. A funny thing that happened was that I once did some user research, and we had a hypothesis that the gray in one of our banners was the problem, so that the gray wasn't the right shade of gray. So we came up with a range of 4 or 5 grays and took it to user testing. And the customers went, "Are you kidding me? Are you having a laugh?" Because they couldn't see the difference in the shades.
Oh, yeah.
These are design issues.
To designers, we think it's like such a big deal, but to everyone else, they can't even tell. That's hilarious.
Exactly. Real people are kind of waiting on content. So I believe in inclusive design. So I very rarely will design a nav bar without some labels, because I want everyone to be able to access both the icon and the meaning of the icon quite easily. So I'm going to use placeholders. So I'm just going to use an E to create an ellipse, which is going to act as my placeholder for my icons. And I'm just going to set it to 24 pixels by 24 pixels. And then I'm going to create some text. So I just use T. I'm just going to create home. And I need to change the size. So I want 12 point, which is fine if I capitalize it from an accessibility perspective. Of course, if you're designing with native apps and you use the native components, you'll get accessibility for free, because you'll use, in iOS, you'll use something called SPs, which means that it takes the font style from Apple's incredible accessibility work. And you know, when you set on your phone the font sizes, that font will scale in line with the customer's choices.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So
cool.
something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to set the size of my text. So again, changing it to area text, so that I know that it will hold a range of content. So let's make this 56. Something that will become very obvious to you is I know my 8 times table. And that's because I do a lot of my work on an 8-point scale. So I like to make things that are symmetrical, therefore I need numbers that are divisible by 2. So 8 points is quite easy. So this I'll make 7.
And it's good for responsive design as well. So if you need to extend your design to different breakpoints, you already have it kind of divided up into a bunch of different segments. So that's really nice to be thinking about that ahead of time.
Yes. I'd like to save myself. I describe myself as doing minimum effort, maximum impact. So I don't want to rework what I don't have to. So I'm just holding down Alt just to see how far things are from other things. And now I'm sort of happy with this selection. I'm just going to go to my layer list over here, bottom left of the screen, the middle icon. And you can see that I now have a list of things that are on this artboard that we're working on. And I only show you this so that we can go to the group. I somehow grouped them by accident. So I'm just going to ungroup them because what I want to do actually is create a component. So components are built for, or create a feature for reusability. I know that I'm going to need at least 4 of these elements for this nav bar. So there's no point designing them one at a time. I might as well call create a component. So I've just done a right click and I select create component, but you can also go over here and there's a plus sign for component and you can use the shortcut, which is Command K. Once I've got this again, sorry, were you about to say something?
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just saying nice. Nothing important.
So again, because I like to name things so I can find them later quite easily, I've named that. So I know that's my home element. And I'm just going to duplicate 4 times. I want a shop. I want a basket. And I want a sort of profile.
This is a cool idea in the chat. So Noor mentioned, or he asked if anyone's tried and played with 3D AR objects available on Google. He's thinking of applications to apps like this one to be able to visualize the bike that you want to buy, which is cool because a lot of times you have to buy bikes just online, maybe without seeing it in store. So seeing it in augmented reality, that would be really cool. I would love that.
That would have saved me quite a bit of hassle because one of the things that was really important to me was the weight of my bike, because I live on the 1st floor, I believe you might call it the 2nd floor in North America, of my apartment, and carrying my bike up and down every day, I don't really want.
You want a lightweight one.
Yeah, I don't want something that's heavier.
For sure.
I saw some that were like 17 kilos.
Don't know what that is in US metrics, but probably heavy, I would assume.
It's over 40 pounds.
Okay, yeah.
A bit of a workout if you're going up there several times.
For sure.
So what I'm going to do now is just tidy up my items. So I've selected all of them. In case you didn't see what I did, I held down Command and Shift and selected all 4 of them. So I can see that they're selected over there. And what I'm going to do is distribute them evenly. And then I'm going to align them bottom. So those are currently in the middle of the screen. I might bump them up so I have my beautiful 12 and 14, which are more divisible by 4.
So organized. I love this.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Everything is divisible by everything else.
One advantage of doing a component instead of designing these things individually is I've realized that I don't want a bold icon there. So I'm just going to turn it to regular, and you can see that it's changed all of the other ones. If you edit the child component, it doesn't change the parent. So I just want to change this to shop, and I want to change this to basket. And that's kind of my nav bar already. I'm going to select all of these things, and you can compose components in components. So what I want is for those 4 components to be in my nav bar component. So I'm just going to make a component there and name it nav bar.
And Laura asked, what kind of bike did you end up with? MTB, I'm not sure what that is, road or city?
So mountain bike, road or
Oh,
city.
mountain bike, okay.
I ended up with the city because I kind of like to do long cycles. So I've cycled from London to Brighton, which is around 8 hours. I've cycled from London to Cambridge, and
That's
there's a little bit of gravel. So I wanted something that could do both city and a little bit of off-road without being, because mountain bikes tend to be a bit heavy because of the suspension.
Like bigger tires, I guess.
Bigger tires, all of that stuff to take all of that shuddering. I didn't quite need that level because I'm a little bit afraid of heights. So where am I? Nav bar, right. So let's get into a little bit of typography. So I'm used T again. So this is my home, which we will use in the product to showcase items to our customers. So this is going to be nice and bold.
Oh, we've got Howard in the chat. Hey, Howard. He hosts the XD Daily Creative Challenge right after this. If you guys are just joining, we're here with Chimmy Kalu. She's designing a bike app, and we'll be here until 2. So thanks for joining, everyone. And sorry, what were you going to say, Chimmy?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, oh, hi, Howard. I've watched many of your videos. They've been very helpful. Awesome. Right. So again, another placeholder icon thing. So just setting my size. I like 24 pixel icons because they can sit in bigger spaces. For those of you that are interested in accessibility, the recommended minimum tap size for something is 44 pixels by 44 pixels. So even though I have a smallish icon here, when I prototype, the tap area will generally be bigger than the size
like the negative
of
space
icon.
around it, you're saying?
Yes, because I want people to be able to tap on that whole space. I have big fingers, so I'm being very infuriated by one or two apps that I use daily.
Oh no.
You have to do target practice to get the right.
Oh gosh.
For my home screen, I want a hero image. So this will kind of be your lead image if you're familiar with journalism terms. And I'm just going to use the layer list to move that down. So that's my Z axis there. I've sent it down to the back. Then of course, right click and send to back as well. There are always multiple ways to do things in XD. So this is my hero image. I will change these things later. For now, I'll just use my placeholder text here to remind myself of what goes in here. Okay. The next thing I want is, so this hero image will probably be whatever, it might be sale or it might be 2021 bikes, whatever it is that the team decides to do, but it has to be a way to go on to that particular thing. So this is my primary CTA, or primary call to action, also known as a button. I'm going to set it at 56 pixels high and 327 pixels, so there's a little bit of margin. I know some people are fans of the full width button. I am not. Again, with the numbers, just making sure everything's spaced appropriately. And then I'll just add a bit of text. So view, shop now, because whatever I decide to put in there later, I know that there will be some shopping involved. And the idea is that this will also take you to the shopping sort of page. Oh, I need much bolder text. So let's make that 24, make it a bit bolder, and make it white for high contrast.
And so this right now is like your low fidelity that you're designing. Do you generally like have a whole section separate that like you'll copy and paste all of these artboards when you step up into more higher fidelity or more of the visuals and prototyping? Or do you usually just kind of use your components and change the colors from there?
So I will use the components and change the
Mm-hmm.
colors from there, unless I discover, because the reason I do the concept is
Mm-hmm.
because I want to test. I want to see whether this
Sure.
concept makes sense from a technical perspective, from
Mm-hmm.
a user, a customer perspective. And if any of the findings from there, show me something different, then at least I can change the concept or make the
Mm-hmm.
change directly in the higher fidelity thing. Um,
Nice.
So again, so let's just use Command K to make a component. So now I have a new component here. I'm just going to call it primary button, because that's something I'm definitely going to be using over and over again in this app. And the rest of this page is effectively a selection of cards that allow you to go to different parts of the site or allow the shop to highlight particular bags or whatever when the customer arrives on the app. So 327, 160, and take it down. So it's behind the nav.
And Gail in the chat, she's saying, and Chimmy, let me know if you agree with this or not. 42 pixels is the minimum, I assume, for button size, and 72 pixels is the max. That's optimal for most users.
Is
Would you
that the height?
say? I guess 42. I would assume 40 or 72 is the width, and 42 is. Oh, never mind. I would assume both of them are width
They
for.
have to be height because they can't. So certainly for mobile, if you see this placement of this button, I've considered the thumb and how comfortable it is for either a left or a right thumb to hit that button. So if someone's left-handed or using their left hand, they get to hit it kind of over there. And if someone's using the right hand, they get to hit it over there. So if I made it small, then I would have problems for one kind of customer. So that's why I tend to go with a bit of a fuller width button, and the height can be shorter. So I think I've seen 40, but generally I never go down below 48, because 44 is the acceptable, and 48 obviously is divisible by 8. So
I love that. I'm learning so much new today. This is so great.
So that's my page done. I'll style all of these things later. Those of you that are wondering what we're going to be doing tomorrow, there will be a transformation of this page. Starting today, probably ending tomorrow. So I'm just going to reuse as much as possible. By copying this one that exists here onto this screen, it goes into the same position as it was on the other page. So I don't need to faff around with where it is. And this page is actually my shop. And because it's a bike store, so I've just had to change the alignment. This is something that actually you have to pay attention to with text, because you might wonder, oh, why isn't it aligning correctly? The text has its own inner alignment, as well as the object alignment that's at the top of the page. So now I'm going to have to move that a little bit because it was out of kilter. Okay, so now it's back where I want it to be. So I was saying it's a bike store, so they won't only sell bikes, they'll sell a bunch of things. And the goal of the shop page is for you to show the range of things that are available on the site. Now, people might use a hamburger menu to show these things, but I tend to expose things as much as I can so that people don't have to dig to look for them. So I'm just using a rectangle here to indicate my sort of selected state. So that's 43. So I'm going to make this slightly wider at 44. And I'm going to set it at 4 pixels, take off the border. and change the fill. And then I like a corner radius. So I'm going to go down here and set the corner radius for this shape a little bit. So it's not as harsh as a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to use a perfect corner radius, so that says each of the corners, left, right, top, bottom, are 4 pixels. But if I wanted to do something different, I could just hit this other different radius for each corner to set a different corner radius if I wanted some sort of other funky shape, which in this instance, I do not.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make it 4 again. For corner radiuses, I just tend to pick numbers like 4, 8 and see how they look. There's no fixed rule.
And for those of you that are just joining us, Chimmy's working on a bike app, as you can see. And during the last, I'd say 15 or so minutes, we're going to be doing, this is a new segment, so it's called Artist Spotlight, if you haven't seen it before, where we celebrate different creatives from the community. So this is every Monday. And we have one picked out for today, so I'm excited for that. And then tomorrow, we're going to be reviewing the daily creative challenges at the end of the stream. So be sure to watch Howard's XD Daily Creative Challenge live stream right after this. That'll be from 2 to 2:30, and then we can look at some of you guys' designs from that during tomorrow's stream.
Okay. I'm just creating a few more categories that are of interest to my customer.
Actually, there was something that I saw recently that I almost bought, but it was sold out. It was, well, 2 things. One was a little wine rack for like underneath your bike where you would normally have just like water bottle or something, but it was for wine. I was like, that's such a good idea. And the other thing, I know, the other thing was a pet holder for the front of your bike, basically just a basket, but they called it a pet holder because it had like an attachment or something. But I was like, oh man, I need to get one of those, but I need to get a bike first. Don't even. But everything is sold out right now.
I know, it took me ages to get this bike that I wanted. Oh yeah, I bought a city bike. I don't know if I answered that question.
Yes.
And it's a Marin, which is, I had a Marin for my first bike as an adult, and it got stolen, and I've been deep since that day and decided to replace it finally.
I don't know much about bikes, but I'm learning today.
I didn't quite expect to have as much bike chat. Didn't know people would be as interested. So this is awesome. Yes, so I'm going to prototype this later. And what makes sense for that decision I'm going to make later is to create a component out of this. So I'm just going to make these a component, and that will be my sort of sub navigation for the page. Now, the other thing that I want to do is create some cards that will effectively be the different kinds of bike. So there's mountain bikes, there's touring bikes, there's adventure bikes, there's cyclocross. There's all of these different bikes that people love. So I'm just setting my shape. So I want a square, so I've made it 160 by 160. And I'm now going to introduce something called a repeat grid, because I want all of these things to be easily updatable later. So I'm just going to put subcategory here, or let's just call it, sub hybrid bike, which is what I got. I don't know if that's what they're called in other parts of the world, but this is sort of a city bike, a leisure bike.
Howard in the chat said, I may or may not be Googling bike wine rack right now. And Lamont said, why not bike wine trailer? Oh my. That'd be fun if you're like biking to different wineries and stuff. We have something like that in Missouri. People do that during the summer, but they're all closed down right now, unfortunately.
Oh no, that's a shame.
And Z has a question for you. So
Yes.
they asked, I'm new to XD. What's the difference between low fidelity and high fidelity?
So, what a great question. What I'm doing right now is low fidelity. So, we're working with a concept. You can see that I haven't put any color. Well, black and gray are colors, but you know what I mean. I haven't faffed around with my typography other than setting the sizes. I haven't chosen a style. So, low fidelity is very much wireframes of a rustic nature. So they just want to show the idea of the thing as
Sure.
opposed to the style of the thing. Mostly I would use this sort of fidelity to work out the content of my page. So if I already knew the content, I already had a brand or style guide, then I wouldn't necessarily do this step. But since this is my very new product, there's currently nothing decided, and you're going to help me pick colors and stuff later for it. So that's another reason why I've gone low fidelity to start with. I've selected the shape and the text that are going to form my category cards. And I'm just going to use this thing here called repeat grid. And what it does is I can select that and make as many of this component as I want, and also set the spacing.
And do you have a certain rule for your spacing as well? I would love to know that.
So normally I would go with 8 or multiples of 8.
Sure.
But the problem with the iPhone X, it's 375 pixels. You do not know how much this annoys me, that I will never get a perfect 8 on it. Oh, drives me wild.
Come on, Apple, what are you doing? You're killing us.
But if you set the margins to 19 pixels, then you can get a beautiful 24 pixel grid with 8 pixel gutters in the middle, which I do sometimes. But today I can't, I'm not going to that level of detail. So we will go with numbers and keep the spacing as is. For what I want though, that's fine. And you'll see the benefit of doing it this way in a little while. So that's my categories. I will modify them in a wee while. So I'm just reusing that component, my navigation bar, which will sort of sit over here. And when the user is here, it will be home selected. And when they're here, it will be shop selected. But we'll do all that sort of styling stuff in a little while.
And so I assume on the shop page, that's going to be like the photos of the bikes in those squares.
There will be photos of the bikes in these squares, but sort of a generic face holding one. And when you go into a category of bike, then you'll see sort of more details about the bike. So I really thought about the shop quite nicely, as you might have observed. So this is the final screen that I will do until we have done a bit of prototyping, and then we'll see where we are with the rest of the day.
And do you usually do that? Like you'll design a few and then do some prototyping and then come back, do some changes, sort of cyclical like that?
If I'm working by myself, because sometimes things don't occur to you until you've tried to do the interaction.
Very true. And then you're like, oh, this isn't working out.
Exactly. So I might have to change things as we go, but we'll see how my assumptions have gone so far. So what? And
Laura is asking. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, please.
Laura in the chat is asking, at what stage of the process would you consider adding the top icons? She said battery, time, etc. Oh, I guess that's like
you mean at the top of the page,
system-wide Apple sort of icons.
So typically when I'm doing the high fidelity, if I'm going to be prototyping on a, sort of showing on a phone, I will just leave off 24 pixels at the top because I know that's what the status bar will take up.
Again, I love that you know that by heart too. If design doesn't work out for you, you could be like something in math because you are very good at remembering the numbers, an accountant or something.
My brain works with numbers and patterns.
That's awesome. Perfect.
Luckily for me. that kind of. I'm kind of described as, sort of like the boring designer because I'm very structural and analytic as opposed
No,
to
that's the
super
perfect designer, I
visual.
feel like. Because then you can work well with developers too. They're like, oh, she gets it.
Well, this is the first half of my career. I was actually a back end developer for a
Oh,
while.
I didn't
It
know
was
that.
ghastly. I was not suited to it at all.
Oh, really?
I need people and I need visuals. Like
Sure.
I like the numbers, but I kind of like the numbers in a visual pattern, if you know what I
Mm,
mean. I don't want
best
sort
of
of,
both worlds.
yeah, the numbers without any visuals, which is what I had with coding back end
Hmm.
systems. It was interesting.
That is
Um,
interesting. What a unique path. I mean, you don't know until you try it, you know? That's what I always tell people who are
That's true. I
unsure.
was so determined to be a Java developer. Like I crafted
Oh,
my entire uni course based
wow.
on that. And then I discovered in real life, basically, I had a group of people that were my friends as developers who
Hmm.
would write their own file systems at home.
Oh,
This
wow.
is back before streaming
Okay.
was a thing. So they download torrents and stuff. And one of them was really annoyed that his files weren't named correctly because he wanted Grey's Anatomy season 1, episode 1,
Oh,
and then the title, and they'd come with all sorts of funny names. So he
yeah.
wrote a file system. And I thought,
Wow.
I have never been the type to care enough to write
Right.
code for that sort of thing. So clearly, I'm not good enough. I'm just a mediocre developer, which was not acceptable.
That's funny.
So this is sort of my um, what do I call it? So effectively, this screen and this screen are part of the global navigation,
Hmm.
which is why they have sort of the navigation sitting here. But maybe I might want when you go into the hybrid bikes to take away the nav bar because at this point I want the customer to be able to focus on the thing
Sure.
that they want to buy. So I'm just
Hmm.
designing a slightly different header that
Okay.
has the title here, and this will hold a back button to sort of go back to the main
Hmm.
navigation, if you like. So we're now in a journey
Hmm.
of shops. So this is hybrid
I
by,
love that idea of, not just having the same nav everywhere, but really considering like what are we trying to get the user to do on each page? Is it more general or is it super specific? Like we actually want them to, add this item to their cart, like make a specific purchase. It's a good idea.
yes, I like to design for clarity. So I believe
Hmm.
that a person should not be confused about what it is that you want them to do
Hmm.
effectively.
Yeah.
So trying to make sure that I can focus the customer. No, I have to create a new one because if I use the same repeat grid, it will, I won't be able to style them independently. So I'm
Mm,
just going
right.
to create a new one here. But what I want, so this is super important if you're buying a bike, you want to be able to filter the results because you can get really specific about what it is that
Hmm.
you are looking for. So whether you're filtering by color or you're filtering
Weight, I
by
guess, was
weight.
something we discussed.
So
Color,
the
yeah.
thing that they didn't have in all of the shops I look like at was filtering by weight. So this is
Really?
legitimately the
I'm
only feature
surprised.
that I'm designing this app
The
for,
one thing that you
making
need.
sure that everything has a weight on it and that you can filter by
Yeah.
weight. So um, this will hold sort of a chevron.
Hmm.
So I'm just putting placeholders for the icons because I'll deal with icons in a wee while. And some people like to group, filter, and sort, but I don't think they're the same thing. So I tend to separate out mine. So
Right. They're
here,
not really the same.
I know, but some people will be like, oh, well,
Yes.
people want to filter as
I've
well.
had that discussion several times.
So let's just take this down a little bit. No, 6. So it's still quite high contrast, but not as.
So it looks like you're keeping most of your low fidelity wireframes pretty much just black and white. Like you don't really add colors until we get to the mid fidelity or like higher fidelity sort of stage. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I bring in color so I'm using this opportunity here to think about what components I have and what needs to stand up in the page. So information architecture is sort of the thing that underpins all of my thinking for design. And so if I don't know what the hierarchy is, then choosing color is not yet ready. The other reason I design in black and white is because if someone has color blindness, for example, then I need to make sure that the design makes sense, even if I have no color. So as you can see with the black and white, this design makes sense before I add color. So color should add to the experience and not hinder someone from being able to do the thing.
That. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, so that's why. So let's put this at 160. Now my spikes are going to be probably a 3x2 in shape.
Okay.
So I'm going to make it 160 by 160, but I want to add some, just so that I have enough room to put the bike image in. But also I want to put some additional text like metadata, like bike name, because this is where
maybe the price, I would assume. That's
the price is super important.
Some of them I know can be very expensive, like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Actually, for the amount of space I have, 24 does not make sense. So let's make it 16. And then
lots of talk in the chat about career stuff after you were talking about your foray or your first job in developer land, and people are talking about that. So interesting.
Right. So yes, so when I was doing my uni, like I said, I crafted a whole degree around the prospect of being a Java developer. So when I was in my final year at uni, I did human computer interaction as a module, and I knew that I should work in this thing. I knew it at that point, but
so that was only just like one of your courses.
That was just one.
Oh, interesting.
In the final year.
But the final year, of course.
In my final year, but also I didn't know what you would do with human computer interaction. I just had no idea. So I carried on with my degree, with finishing and going to the job that I'd sort of already got by that time, and then tried to figure out what one would do that would be that human computer interaction that I'd studied, that I'd done in that final year. And it wasn't until one day, while I was a back-end developer for a defense company, that I got so frustrated with the job, and
sometimes that'll do
it. I applied to university to do a master's in human computer interaction and ergonomics, because that was the only thing that I could find that had exactly the same name as this module that I'd loved in uni.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
That's
how I got in.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky that one of the people that I'd worked with at Accenture, which is where I'd worked, had gone into UX and advertised for a role while I was still in uni. So I very quickly asked for an introduction and convinced the guy to hire me with no experience at that point.
That's awesome.
It was fabulous. So we have the base for our shop. Now I'll start to think about so we might imagine that I took this for my first round of user research, and it was received positively. They understood what the premise of this, the product was, and how they might use it. So now I think, okay, so let's start to make some decisions on styling. So the first thing to do is to start to, let's do a bit of prototyping to take to user research, if you like. So here's my splash screen. I want the customer to go straight from splash to the home screen. So there's nothing to interact with here.
Is there going to be some kind of
thing.
animation, do you assume, or?
So when it's built, yes, there would be an animation, but animation is probably one of my weakest design skills. So I usually avoid it personally if I can, but I will tell someone, I'm thinking about animation here. Do you think
as long as you can explain it well enough,
they're able to do it,
right?
Then that's fine.
Okay.
The first thing we'll do, so I've just navigated from my design tab, which is where I've done all that sort of setting up of my wireframes, to my prototype tab, which is right in the top left. And you'll see that we're now in prototyping mode because this sort of blue shape with an arrow has appeared, and I can drag this arrow effectively to any screen that I want. The first thing I want to do is set my home screen. So by setting this home screen here, this means that whenever I start the prototype, this is going to be the screen that it treats as the first screen. What I want to do, so I want this to transition to this other screen without the user interacting with it. So I can go into my properties list on the right and select a timed trigger.
Oh, you have to like drag the thing first, drag the little arrow thing first, and then those appear. Yeah.
So I was just trying to make sure that I'd selected, because the time trigger only comes when you select the whole artboard. So you can't select a specific part of the artboard. So that's my time there. And I'm going to choose a small delay. So let's say 0.2 seconds, because we don't want the person to feel like there is something broken in the product.
Like, what's going on? Tapping on it. And while we're on the splash screen, Richard has a question. He asked, is the splash screen the same as onboarding, in your opinion?
So the splash screen would be the start of onboarding. So one thing I've discovered with lots of apps is that they don't have room in the app for the logo of the app, if that makes sense. So if you were thinking about a website, you kind of have your logo hanging out in top nav. So your customer will be aware of what brand that is. And I know an app, you might have the app logo on the icon before you trigger it. But if the app is already open, I kind of use the logo as just that brand recognition, so that you can continue to remember, oh, this is the hipster bike app. Hipster Bikes is the name of this brand, by the way.
Awesome.
I love it. Figure out I like hipsters. I am not quite a hipster, but so what do I want to do? Do I want an auto animate? So the transition is effectively what feedback you want the prototype to give, because an action, so the trigger is the action or the gesture, and then the transition or the thing that happens after is that feedback that lets the customer know that something has happened. So for now, I think we'll just stick with transition. And I want it to go to the home screen, so that's already set. And you can really be fancy. So with an initial prototype, I might go a bit wild with what I choose. But for now, I think none makes sense, because I just want it to transition naturally, especially if you have some sort of animation on the splash screen. You don't want too much movement, because that's a bit distracting. The next thing that we want is for when I did the first trigger, I went with the whole screen, but now I want specifically when the customer clicks on this component that they go over to my shop. So I'm just going to pull that over there and just check that everything is as expected. So again, a transition and animation. I kind of wanted to do something. So now I'm going to push. What do we want?
Chat, let us know.
Any suggestions? Let us know. This is a
And
lottery.
normally the chat is like a little bit delayed just because of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think any would be fine. What are you
Anyway,
feeling?
okay. So let's go with a push left.
That'd be cool.
I think that's push left. So that will come in. The important thing to note is that if they push left into my shop, then I want to make sure that the transition back is a push right, so that there's that sort of
kind
feedback
of,
to the customer that
back and
this back and forth is happening. So because the home screen is in the global nav, I haven't put a back button because that interaction is going to live in the navigation there. But when I do the shop to home, it's going to be a push right. Remind me, people, remind me. Okay, so now we want to do a couple of things based on the components. So some things I've chosen to do with components and some things I've chosen to do with a repeat grid. One of the benefits of using a component. So actually, before I do this, let's just do a quick test of a prototype. Let's move this way. Move this here. So if I shop now.
Nice, that looks good.
That looks pretty. So the reason I stopped is because I'm going to use my component states, and that means I have to run back to design mode to use my component states to show what's happening. So for my component, I'm just going to go to the main component here. What I want is for each of those components to have a default state, which is an unselected state, and then a selected state. So a new state here, I'll call it selected. And in that selected state, once you're in the state, okay, hold on. Default state is home selected. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit. So while I'm in that default state, make things a little bit bigger. So that's going to go bold, and the icon will go, let's make the border 3 pixels. Nope.
And I love that you're doing this while you're in wireframe mode, because I feel like sometimes if I'm just rushing or something and I end up, oh, I'm already doing the visuals, and then, oh, shoot, I already made all these artboards, but they all have all of these icons, and then I have to go back and do them all, like when I should have just done them at the beginning. So props to you for just like doing the right thing at the beginning, and then we don't have to all redo it.
It's much easier for me to correct things. And the other reason I do this now is because for speed, I want to set up all my styles to start with, so that I'm not faffing around, going back and forth, making decisions as I'm doing the styling. So I like to sort of get the structure sorted before I go into
that. Makes sense.
So my default state is bolder. My
And for those of you that are just joining, we are about an hour into the stream, and Chimmy's working on a bike app. If you have just joined in the last few minutes, and don't go anywhere, because in the last 15 or so minutes, we're going to be doing an artist spotlight. And this is sort of one of our new segments, and we'll feature one of you guys' work. So one of you that is an artist. So if you're interested in nominating someone, head over to the Artist Spotlight tab for some more additional details and learn how you can submit a friend of yours.
So I was working in the wrong place. So I've come back out. So first I have to set each of the individual components in the nav bar before I deal with the nav bar itself. So the default state for my home should have just the 1 pixel border and should be the regular as we had before. But when so going back here, when I go into the selected state, that's when I want it to increase and change a little bit. So I'll change the size of the text as well. So let's make it just a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. So that way you'll know when you go in to that. So here I have default and I have selected. So hopefully that should have been applied.
Oh, nice.
Them, but you just have to change.
So I guess all of the text
for the other state, because it just picks up what was this basket? Oh, see, first challenge to my assumptions. So there we've made it slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Let's make it 60 just in case. And
but you were pretty close. That was not too far off.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. This one I think will also break the design. But these are the things I like to nail before I change
before you
other
get into
things.
the visuals and everything. Yeah.
So let's make that just a shade bigger. Let's just go in here. So you can see that I use my properties. Why is it too small? Okay. So now I have all of those things have two states. So now I go to the nav bar, and the default state of the nav bar, I want to make sure that the other things are
just on default, so they don't look like they're selected.
Yes, because what's selected is our home. So we go back to the nav bar. It's my default state, home selected, and so
you've really got like some components within a component, sort of. So 3 layers of components, I believe.
So it's it's 2 layers at the moment, and then the interaction will be on the top layer. So let's hope this works out. It's sometimes confusing when you have multiple
so many different
components because you have to make sure you're in the right one. So I just check here to make sure I'm in the right component. So that's nav bar, default state, home selected, and I create some new states. So shop will have things switched around. So I make sure I'm in that state, and then I go into the other components, which I trot into there, change that one to default, change shop to selected. Ugh. How many times?
And you have to go back and change it. Shoot.
Okay. So let's see. So shop, default, shop, default.
Nice.
Okay. So now we've done that one. Let's add the rest of them so that we don't forget. So what's the next one? Basket. So basket. This is one.
And while you're working on that, I'll just briefly kind of talk about the Adobe Creative Residency Fund. So if you guys haven't heard about this, the community team has put together a $1 million community fund that's basically aimed at providing resources for creatives that have been negatively impacted by COVID. So really awesome. I was a creative resident myself 2 years ago, I believe. So I obviously recommend it. I'm a little biased. But if you want to apply, the project runs the whole year during 2020. So no rush to apply. And not everyone that applies will be selected, but you can apply for project funding or commissions through Adobe, and then you basically get a one-time grant to pursue a 2 to 4 week project. So definitely check it out. We'll put the link in the chat if you want to just hop over there and just find more. Oh, Sam already has that in there, so check it out if you're interested.
This is a bit puffy, but design is not all glamour. There is a little bit of tedium.
That is true, yes.
Involved. And you must take some tedium with the glamour.
Better to do it right the first time rather than, like I was saying, have to redo everything at the end.
So our nav bar is working okay. And the
Awesome.
beauty of components is that the second nav bar will also, oh no,
Ah, shoot.
always happens. So really, something that,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just
oh,
confused why it wasn't working because you've got all the components like properly.
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm really not sure why so it's something
Mhm.
about the states. The states pick
Yeah.
the main component states as opposed
Hmm.
to, so something I didn't call out is that I'm using the uppercase over here as opposed to typing in with caps lock. And the
Mm.
reason that you do that is because when you hand over to developers, they will. So if you use something like Zeppelin for handover, it would
Hmm.
say text dot transform uppercase. This means that they'll write the code in a way that if you change your mind and decide, okay, it's no longer going to be uppercase, it's going to be lowercase, they don't have to change the code every
Mm.
single line. Same way as
Oh.
if you use uppercase, you just need to change it one time
Hmm.
over here back to lowercase or whatever, as opposed to having
Good
to
to
type in
know.
everything
Right,
again.
right.
So just tiny little trick
Yeah,
for you all. So let's check this one again. Anyway, we'll figure that sort of detail out as we go.
sure.
So that's an interaction that I want. So as someone thinks, so let's go and use that a little bit in the prototype. So that's default state.
Hmm.
Let's move this out of the way. So just like I can do things with transitions from screen to screen, you can transition from state to state. So on tap, if it's in the default state
Hmm.
and they tapped, I want the trigger to be tap and I want to transition. Let's do an auto animate and choose shop for now. So we're just going to do a simple thing just to test
Hmm.
the logic of.
Woo! It worked.
So it doesn't work twice because I've only set it for
Going
one
back to
tap,
home. Yeah.
but I'm going to have to do another one. But you saw how nicely it
Hmm.
transitioned there. So when we go to shop, I'm just going to
And
make
with
it
the auto
simple.
animate, it was kind of nice too, how it kind of popped up a little bit.
Yes.
Love that.
Hold on. I don't want it to go anywhere. Okay, so you just tap on it to go nowhere particular. And so my gesture is a tap, auto animate still, and I wanted to go back to default. So let's
Yeah, I
do some
wish you could
testing.
name default state to home or whatever you
I
want. I think they're
know,
working on
I
that, but
know.
because I'm always like,
It's
wait, where is it? Oh, yeah, it's default. One of these days.
one of these
Woo,
days.
it looks great.
So now, the other thing that needs to happen really is that it needs to also, so maybe what needs to happen is that the whole page needs to have the navigation attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So need to think about that one a little bit for the interaction, because what's happening is I'm getting the animation happening there, but I
Mm-hmm.
also want it to go to there. So maybe what I want.
I think for that, you just have to like do another interaction
Yeah.
and like drag another one and drag it to the actual next screen. Um,
Yes. So, but then the question is, what's my trigger?
mm,
So,
can
but
you like
this is why you
drag?
prototype first,
Right.
because you
Have to
have to
test it
figure these
out.
things out.
That is true. Because we already used tap.
Yes, we already
So,
used tap.
but I
So
think if you, yeah, that's true. I think,
yeah.
oh, okay. I think if you double click into the actual shop icon, like not the whole nav, and then you drag that guy over, then that would work.
Aha.
There we
That
go.
is very clever. Okay, so that's my one that I want to, the shop goes to shop, and I want it to match the same, so transition. I want it to match the same.
Like the sliding
thing
that
I
we did sort
before.
of.
Why is it giving me? Okay, so transition to shop. And what did we choose? Push left?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so that should work. And then that one should, no, this one should go back that way. And now that should push right. So this is literally the sort of stuff that I spend my time thinking about, because if you go into research with customers, even with this screen, as dodgy as it looks, on styles definitely not being built, and you haven't thought about your interactions very carefully, you will get whooped. So something is not quite working.
I think maybe we need to get, I think we need to get rid of the, like,
I'm going to have to get rid of the top.
The one that's just floating there. I think that needs to get rid of. Welcome everyone that's just joining. Lots of different times for Sarah. She said good evening. We've got Mayanne, we've got Sam, Noor. Good night everyone that's just going to bed. Thank you for joining wherever you are and whatever time it is. Sarah from Manchester. Yeah, let us know where you guys are from. I'm curious.
It's enough bar and kill this.
And so don't forget, in about 50, maybe 20 or so minutes, we're going to be doing our artist spotlight. So be sure to stick around for that, everyone. And tomorrow we'll be reviewing your XD daily creative challenges that you've been working on. Today, I believe Mondays are usually just a welcome day, but Howard is going to be hosting that right after this in about 50 minutes or so. And that'll be for 30 minutes. And yes, welcome, Jamanique from Texas. We've got Andrea from Miami. Another Andrea, woo! Michelle from Pennsylvania. We've got a Brazil, New Jersey. Wow, all over. Love it. And so if you're just joining, Chimmy is working on a bike app since she just spent a lot of time finding her own bike recently. So it was not a pleasant experience, she was saying. So she wanted to have her own stab at it, at what a proper bike app should be.
So far, tricky is the solution. So let's see. So the navigation doesn't quite work as intended, but we have a couple of things that work in terms of prototyping. I thought I'd start to show you a couple of other things that we'll build on tomorrow, but how I'm going to build on improve the UI tomorrow, for example. So I'm going to start to work on some of the components. So I use components because they're very usable. So we see that if we go to my assets list, I have a bunch of components that are listed here. So that's one component for my home button, and this is the primary button, which is currently not named.
I was gonna say, you're so organized with everything.
I know.
I'm surprised you don't name those.
I named it all in the wrong place.
Oh.
I was not thorough enough. So categories, and this is nav item. And what is this one? I have no idea. but we'll figure it out in a minute. So
Usually, I think if you right click on it, it'll like highlight it. You can choose highlight on canvas, and then usually it will show you. Oh, okay. It's the top nav.
Okay, so it's that. Okay, so what did I name? I named, oh, this is the nav bar, not the categories. This is why I name things, because I do not want to spend all my time wondering what things are. Okay, so I'm going to change. So at the moment, I haven't got any other nav buttons, so primary buttons. So I'm going to save this one for tomorrow, actually.
Sure.
But what I'm going to do is show just a quick thing that I prepared, why repeat grids are awesome. So hopefully you can see my list of things that I have here. So these are categories. I have this bit of text here. Okay. I'm just going to drag, hold on, let's make sure I've selected the right thing. Drag this onto my text. And did you see?
Is that like a text file or what is that?
That is a text file. So let's open up the text file.
Okay, I've used that with pictures all the time, but not with text.
Yes, you can get text
awesome.
in. So those are the list. I wrote it in the same way that I ordered the pictures.
Yeah.
So what it now means is that I can drag in all of the pictures.
Even your folders are so organized. I like you could give, what's her name? The lady she's got that Netflix show about organizing. Marie Kondo. You're like, you could give Marie Kondo a run for her money.
Indeed. I mean, I do not ask my components if they spark joy, but maybe I should start doing that.
Yeah.
So one thing that helps with adding the components as I mean to see them is that I can start to see some issues that I might have. So here I'm going to need to add a white bit of text because it's text over images. And then because I'm not adding a shadow like a overlay at the moment, I'm just going to add a little pop of shadow so that the white pops up a little bit more on the page. So that's one cool thing that you can do with repeat grids, and we will fill out this page quite quickly tomorrow. So it's going to be nice and colorful and styled and reflect the brand of Hipster Bites.
I love it.
I can't do maths. Am I still on time?
Yep, we've got about 12 minutes until our artist spotlight.
Okay, fantastic.
So feel free to keep designing whatever you want.
Okay, great. So it might be that I want to add something later because, as you can see, with some of this imagery here, I have a bit of a problem with my text, but I'll deal with that later. So let's start working a little bit then on my actual design. So I have an SVG that I prepared with my Hipster Bites logo. So let's just drag that in because I know it's going to be a wee bit problematic for me to find the actual file.
Is it actually white or am I just seeing it like?
It's got a little thing inside.
Oh no.
But it's so tricky to get the right. Do you know what? Let's just introduce you to another concept that I have, which is plugins. So plugins are super useful. I have icons for design in my plugins. I also have Start, which is for checking contrast and colorblind simulation. So if we just go to this view here, so the plugins is the bottom icon on the left, the bottom side. And we go to my icons for design. Let's see if they happen to have a hipster icon. No.
Oh. Okay, what? So they have so many. Come on.
I know. What can I look for that might
like a beanie?
Good beanie. But who knows what they've named it? Because it might be like toque. No.
Or just like some kind of bike wheel or something like that.
Oh, I had a really cool icon. All my preparation. And
my aunt said, I don't know if this is a plugin or not, but she said icons for design is awesome if you're looking for some more.
So that's what I'm using, icons for design.
Oh, I thought it was something else.
No, no, it's I've got a few other ones I've tried, but this one, um, between this and Noun Project, I kind of get
Mm,
most of the icons. Let
yeah.
me just pick this one. Oh no. I'm holding down Command to
Hmm.
make sure that I get the right layer. And then I'm just going to copy that. And
And
that's
Regina
the,
asked if there's any copyright issue with icons for design. I believe they're all like open source.
yes.
Um, since
Um,
it's like a plugin in XD, so anyone can use it for anything, I believe.
yes. I don't believe that you, like, it doesn't say that you need to attribute.
Mm-hmm.
I pay for a Noun project. So
Mm.
essentially, in case you haven't figured it out, I'm not the kind of person to sit around designing my own icon. I know some people love that sort of thing, but that is not where my creative
Sure.
skills lie. So
Yeah.
I just pay to get my icons instead. So
Yeah.
let's look for a suitable size for this logo. Um,
And I think sometimes with like the SVG you were trying to pull in, sometimes you have to bring it into Illustrator first and then like copy it over to XD. It's
yeah.
something with, I don't know, but that could be why.
Oh, I spent the longest, like they're all I prepped them
Oh,
all nicely, and
shoot.
then they don't act the way I want them to act.
Of course.
It's the gaze of
Yep.
a live demo.
Yep.
That's why it's showing
Always,
me up.
always when you're live.
Okay, so in terms of colors, I love to pretty much design black and white with
Hmm.
pops of color.
Sure.
So the pops of color that I shall choose today, what might stand out? Should we do like a bit of a blue? So I'm using
Yeah.
my MacBook Air, which means I don't have a beautiful Retina screen,
Mm,
which means that not everything looks as marvelous. So hopefully you're getting
that looks nice.
that kind of
And
looks
I think
nice.
it's
Okay.
nice like that we're maybe letting the photos speak for themselves since the bikes are the things that we really want the users to focus on anyway. So not making everything else like too colorful or just too many patterns or anything, I think is a good way to go.
Yeah, exactly. So the only thing with the pops of color is so that I can have things like my primary
Hmm.
CTA be in the accent color and other things that are in a selected state.
Yeah.
So here, what I want to do is add this color style so that I don't have to guess what blue I chose.
Hmm.
As you can see, I just picked a random blue. So now I have that color style here. And if we go back into the assets, we should have the ability to add a color here. Now this will come in handy because, so let's change the fill of this component to that blue. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, this is a fun hipster brand. So this fun hipster brand does not need the hard edges that we've currently
Sure.
got now. So I'm going to add a little bit of a curve.
I love it.
Circles are the most pleasing shape to the human eye.
Oh,
So
that makes sense.
a little bit of a curve really
Hmm.
helps to accentuate the design. Now, if I went around and chose this blue, and I don't know, went into user research and
Hmm.
people said that blue is ghastly or that blue doesn't match
Yeah.
the
As they
the
do.
doesn't evoke the right
Yep.
emotion for the brand. What you can do. So wait, let me just choose a few more things to update with the blue so that actually hold on.
I actually love that blue, by the way.
I like the blue
A nice
actually,
deep blue.
but you will be surprised. I mean, actually, to be honest, customers very rarely mention color
Mm,
unless there's a sort of problem like
something
this where they can't
jarring.
see, something really jarring.
Mm.
Okay, so I have a few things now. Let me just make sure I complete blue so I can remember it later. Because if I changed my mind and I wanted to do something else, I might edit the color here,
Mm-hmm.
and it just applies the change everywhere. This is
Love that.
why you use your styles
Yep.
so that it's easy for you to change your mind. And that's why I try to set up my components a little bit at the start so that I
Mm-hmm.
can choose which things will be easily changed as I go through my iteration of my design. So,
Saves so
what do
much
we think?
time.
Do we like
I
this
love it. Yeah.
pinkish color, or do we like the
I like the
blue
blue
color?
better personally, but maybe the chat has a specific recommendation. Oh,
Right.
Ignacio said Chimmy makes it look so easy.
Practice, Nacho. This is like
Yeah.
the daily, and you just get a little bit better. Let's change
Mm-hmm.
it back for now, and we can find
Yeah.
black color hopefully later. Um, just to summarize what we've
Mm-hmm.
done today before I hand over to Andrea, what I've tried to do is look through a basic concept of a bike store um, app, looking at a few screens and at sort of a low fidelity level. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started introducing some color to show you some features of XD, including repeat grids. We looked at component states. Let's look at component states here, where you can see the shop. Or did I take it off? Oh, you can see it on the side here. Design. You can see things changing with component states
Mm-hmm.
over here. Tomorrow, we're going to amp up the prototyping here. We're going to make things scroll horizontally and vertically.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to create content-aware layouts so that things size appropriately using stacks. We're going to look at scroll groups. We are going to do a little bit of voice and speech
Awesome.
prototyping so that you can hear some sounds and
Mm-hmm.
we can hear some speech and use voice to hopefully control our prototype. So today
A
was
little bit
just
of
like
everything.
today was a basic introduction so that
Mm-hmm.
you get familiar and comfortable with
Sure.
XD. Tomorrow I'm going to assume that you're a little bit amped up, and we will work with components and sort of recreate these screens in a lot faster.
Awesome.
Let me know if you have any questions. I will be here. If you want to give me something to think about before I join you all tomorrow, let me
Yeah.
know. Otherwise, I think we're good to go for now.
Cool. So I will start sharing my screen. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Okay. So today, now we're going to be focusing on our artist spotlight. So let me know. It looks like you guys can see it. All right, so Artist Spotlight, as I mentioned earlier, so this is sort of a new segment on Adobe Live where we just celebrate different creatives like you guys from the community. So we do this every Monday. And this is not so much a portfolio critique like we used to do, and more of just like hyping each other up, looking at your awesome work, seeing what you guys are creating, and just some encouragement. So yeah, we have just one selected today. So Chimmy, you and I are just going to look through Katarina. So this is who we've selected for the end of our stream today. Look through her work and just take a look, give her some encouragement. So she is a UI UX designer from Ukraine. Awesome. And she's got a few projects here. I'll just go ahead and start with this top one, unless you have anyone in particular that you want to look at first.
No, the top one looks good.
Cool. So this one is called Boom Bar, and it's an e-commerce mobile app design.
Ooh,
And right
e-commerce.
away, like I love this.
Oh my God, that is
This
so
up
good.
here. Beautiful. It just really draws me in. And that's like, I feel like that's the one like feedback that I always give to people is make sure you have your like intro sort of slide or like the top of where you're scrolling to be super drawing you in, and this definitely does that. So awesome job, Katarina.
Definitely drawn in
Down.
by the whiskey, I'll tell you that.
Yes. We've been talking a lot about like whiskey and wine today, I guess. All right. So the idea, she says, Boom Bar allows the users to purchase a particular quantity of liquor online, which can only be consumed in parts. Oh, that's neat. So it's just like a glass.
Ah,
User will visit a partner establishment in order to redeem and consume the liquor purchased through application. That's really cool. I would totally
that's
use that.
pretty nice. I
Wireframes.
I like the fact that she's given a structure. So
Mm,
sometimes I find that there are people that have just screens without
mm,
setting the context.
yeah,
So really helpful to have that idea before moving into sort of the low fidelity
I
wireframes.
agree. Yes, for sure. Giving us that context. And then we've got typography and colors. I gotta say, I feel like I use Playfair all the time. It's probably one of my top 10, I would say, and Poppins too.
I use Poppins all the
Do
time
you?
because I'm not I feel like I'm like so new school. I'm not the biggest fan of serifs,
Yeah.
but Playfair is one
It's
of
a
my
little more old
preferred
school, I guess.
serifs. Yeah.
Yeah. Poppins is a good one. And then colors. And we've got our components. Wow, this is so nicely
Yay.
organized. I love this.
Maybe I should look at this to set up my components for my cycling app.
Beautiful. Got all the cards and everything. User app main screens. So we've got login and sign up.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So create an account, introduce yourself, verify the code, welcome back.
I
And
like the
then,
use of the
mhm.
gradients in the buttons over there. You can see just like really
Yeah,
subtle, but adds texture
I love
to
that.
the buttons.
And it's not like it is bright, but the rest of the screen is pretty minimal anyway. So it really draws your attention down there to that CTA.
They will be clicking sign up and continue for sure.
Yes. And then we've got the home screen. And these little illustrations are so cute. I wonder where she got
Yeah,
these or if these were like stock or if she made them herself or something. Very cute.
yeah.
Homepage. So, homepage to display the products, liquor bottles by category, show products available in nearby partner restaurant, and special offers. Okay. Love the coloring. I see she grabbed the colors from like the actual bottle of whiskey. It looks like sort of those like amber colors with the orange
Yeah,
and red. I love
that's
that.
very cool.
Mm-hmm. Then we've got search. Provide options to sort the products by name, by rating, and by price.
So
Beautiful.
this is a wonderful thing to look at because some of these features are features that will be coming up tomorrow. Filtering,
Very
yeah.
true. I'm sure lots of filters for bikes. Good.
Oh,
And
this
we
is so
got
neat.
product screen and cart. Cool. And I like that I love when people do the like 1/3 or 1/4 sort of like pop-up window as opposed to just over the whole screen
Yeah,
or even just centered, even if it's not like overlaying over the whole thing. Because here you can still see the rest of the screen and you can still interact with it if you want to.
and I really love the subtle um, shades, like the pastel, like the slight blue, and then the is it
Mm,
cornflower blue at the
mm-hmm.
top? It's really
Yes.
elegant.
I know it looks very like professional, very
Mm.
editorial almost. Make an order and congratulations. So cute. I love it. User profile and placing the order. So we've got, okay, so you can view by map and volume or quantity. Yeah, I wish this was a real thing, or maybe it is a real thing. I don't know, because I would really use this myself.
It's very neat. I like the fact that there's both volume and
Mm,
quantity.
yes.
Um, I guess because I have no idea what like I'm clearly spatially challenged. So I don't know
Me
what 30
too.
mil is, but I think that's a shot. So that would make sense to me. And then you can get like two shots.
Right, right. Yeah, such a good idea. And then entering your payment info, card stuff. Actually, and back on like this note, I feel like I'm sure as we all have been eating out a lot lately, and I gotta say, a lot of these restaurants could take note from her because this is like a major flaw that I see other restaurants for takeout not doing properly.
Yeah.
So good job there. If you're watching Katerina, let's scroll on down. Bar
The
manager
bar manager
screens.
screens.
Wow, thought of
So this
everything.
is the other
So this
side.
is the back end, I guess. Hello, yellow bar. Got new orders and completed. Table and like other info like that. That's cool. I'm assuming that this is probably a real app, or at least like in production, because it's very
detailed.
Yes, very detailed, well built out. Completed. Reviews, very nice.
I mean, I'd love to go wherever this app is in use.
I know.
It would be a nice way to plan your multi-stop drinks.
Very true. Alerts and empty sales. Oh, that's cute. That's something that we forget about a lot, or myself at least, is like the 404 screens or just empty, or any screens that like things aren't available, but super important to have.
Yeah, that is true.
Thanks for scrolling. Adorable. Just like all the little details in this case study. I love it. Makes it just so fun and pleasant.
If those illustrations are not made by her, I would love to know where she got them, because they really add personality.
I agree. I wonder if she says like anywhere down here. Sometimes they do, I guess not. Awesome. I love this one. This was Boom Bar. Very cool, Katerina. All right. So the next one, any preference?
Should we pick that one that's yellow? Because I love this one? Yellow. Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So this is BRSM NAFTA gas station. I assume that's, I don't know, some kind of gas station near her, I would assume.
I imagine so.
So the main idea was to redesign a mobile application of network of gas stations in Ukraine. Okay. Decided to make the interface more modern, stylish, and concise. Propose you to get acquainted with my concept and result. And there are several before screens below. Okay. So, oh, wow. So this is the before. Oh, wait. Can I zoom in on it? I don't know. Shoot. Okay. Let me exit out. So it might be a little hard to see, but these are the before, which definitely look like they could use a lot of help.
Yep.
Those are my favorite kind of apps to design personally, because it's like, just get to do a rehaul.
I know. And the bar is so low, you really can't go.
Right. Maybe that's why it's easy to make it look good. You know, the client will be happy. We got wireframes. Oh, that's cute. Oh, it's animated too.
Oh my days. That is so delightful.
Adorable.
I love a surprise.
Yes. Main screen contains information about discounts on all types of fuel. There's a quick access to a client bar mode. Also, the user can get acquainted with price on fuel, special offers, and calculate fuel consumption on the route.
That is an excellent splash to the phone.
It really is.
Animation. That is top draw.
I agree. The little like bounce too, where the text comes down, super nice. Yeah. Love that.
That would totally take me 4 hours to make. Maybe 4 days.
And then we've got the map. So it says on the map, for convenience, user can find the nearest gas stations, filter them, and view fuel and service availability.
Nice.
Okay. Oh, that's cute. All these little icons down here. Filter by that.
Yeah.
I cannot read this, whatever language that is, but it still makes sense.
Cyrillic of some sort?
Okay. Gas station. On screen of gas station user can view fuel and service availability. Also, there's a function of buying fuel without leaving the car. Whoa, that's cool.
I can see that Ukraine is very advanced. We must...
Man.
I don't know about Missouri, but I certainly haven't seen this sort of feature.
Well, we don't have that here.
In London.
That would be awesome. I mean, it wasn't until recently... Well, I guess it was in the 50s or something, but we still have a gas station in St. Louis where someone else pumps it for you. Like, the workers there do it for you. And yeah, Super old school.
That kind of feels sort of what's the word? The words in my head. It like it will come to me in a moment.
That's
like
okay.
living large. I don't know what the word is.
Right.
An indulgence.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, don't even have to step outside. Yeah. We've got profile here. So we're editing some personal data, transaction history, statistics, accumulated points, payment cards, etc. And again, I love seeing this fuel tank.
Yeah, it's a really good thing to be using throughout the app.
And I assume, okay, so this is like euros, how much we've spent, maybe payment info. Then we've got registration. Pretty straightforward. Useful features.
I mean, even though we can't read them, we know that they're quite useful. They look
sure.
useful.
Yeah, the title says so it must be. And all screens. Nice. Yeah, I like how with both of these case studies that we've looked at so far, it's just very, like you mentioned, oh, and this is so cute. Have a nice journey.
So nice.
Oh my gosh. I almost want to see this like higher because this is so just delightful.
Yeah.
But I love that it's just very like organized. We know exactly what section we're in, and it kind of follows a story. Like she takes us through the beginning where it's the wireframes and like even what it was like before. And you don't see this a lot, like screens before the redesign. I think that's helpful to see until
I think most people just sort of start working and then remember the portfolios later.
Right.
After you have no evidence of the before screen.
Right.
I am very guilty of this. I keep trying to find my before screen. I'm like, why did I not save this somewhere I can remember?
Right. Always take screenshots of the before so you can have it on your portfolio.
That's the thing. I do take screenshots, but I don't like an untidy desktop. So I tend to put my screenshots into a screenshots folder, and then I have thousands of screenshots.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It's just pretty lazy of me.
Yeah. I do the same thing. Okay, cool. So this was our gas station app. All right. Any one in particular that you want to look at next?
Well, the one with Venice looks pretty exciting.
All right, let's take a look.
I don't know if that's a desktop one.
Looks like it. Venice, Italy landing page. Nice. See, this is making me bittersweet because I haven't been able to travel in a while.
Same here. And that it looks so immersive. It just looks like you're in Venice.
Yeah.
Almost like you don't have to travel there yourself.
I think it's like the gradient that kind of gives that 3D feel almost.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
I don't even know how one would do that.
I agree.
Maybe I should get some training.
All right, so we've got about. So when a wish list travel destination turns into a design project, inspired by the beautiful architecture, mysterious history, and extraordinary canals of Venice, I decided to design a landing page. So we've got the wireframes, typography, and colors. Ooh, I haven't seen that font before.
Exactly, I haven't seen that font before. So I think she likes to do a serif and a sans serif, which is quite nice.
Yeah, nice pairing. Desktop. Oh, something's. Oh, it's a prototype. Okay, thought I did something wrong. For the curious.
Oh.
Okay.
Very nice. I love the clear sort of delineation of the sections of the page, so that you know that you're a screen's height in the experience.
Very true. Love that. And then here we've got just the static images. So Venice, for the curious, a little bit easier to see since it's not hopping around. Yeah, like pretty simple, just 3 photos, but I think it gets the point across, and it's very clean with the serif especially font.
Exactly. And the choice of the images really, they just pop against that white background. So you don't need very much more. You're kind of drawn to the 3 pictures, especially the one on the right. I love that one.
Yeah, I do too. Beautiful. And I think it's nice that she did like these small versus this one large, because it would be a bit overkill if she had like, oh, a big photo and some more
Big
like
photo.
huge photos here.
Yeah, I like how it just sort of goes into a nice white.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, this is my aesthetic.
Yeah,
Lots
I
of
love it.
white, high contrast,
Mm.
and then pops of color.
Hmm. Super clear. And then number of canals gone. Oh, so it's okay. So it's like a history. Neat. And bridges. That is very cool. First woman in the world that graduated was born in Venice. Didn't know
Really?
that. That's cool.
I think someone asked what comments on the serif font. So I was just saying how I think Andrea said she likes Playfair a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't tend to use serifs personally because I'm not the biggest fan of them for my personal work. But
Mm-hmm.
I love when other people pair them, as
Mm,
has been done here by Katerina in some
sure.
of these designs.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, top 5 to visit Grand Canal. So, I'm not clicking anything, it's just like a movie or video file. Piazza
Ah,
San Marco, Grand
I love the
Canal.
little sort of,
The pop out and
yeah.
like these little animations. Yeah. Nice. And then we've got events. Venice Carnival.
Oh, that's the pop-up. So you click Venice
Mm.
Carnival and it goes.
Oh, I see.
That's
Oh,
very
cool.
elegant. Very
That
elegant.
is how
Especially
the
keeping the,
arrow. Oh, go ahead.
but also keeping the size of the image constant, and the
Oh, I didn't notice
pop-up is
that.
moving from the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
So
really nice. I
true.
imagine
Huh.
that the other ones will do the same, which is
Right.
awesome.
Wow, that's so neat. I love that. That's just a very unique design. You don't see something like this, like grid-like, very often.
No.
And a map. So where? Okay. Choose your happy days. September, October. Oh, okay. So
I
what
would
they
be choosing
recommend, I
October.
assume. Really? Is that your favorite
Yeah,
month?
October is my favorite month, hands
Mm,
down.
fall. I do love fall.
Yeah. Get the change in the colors of
Mm-hmm.
the leaves. Oh, there's a
Kind of
mobile
crisp.
version.
Mobile.
I
Ooh.
love the, like, it works. The same
Yeah.
design clearly
Yeah,
works
yeah. Love
on
that.
mobile.
Yeah, you can tell she took her time, like really choosing the photos, not just like, oh, I'll take some random stock photos. Like she took her time on that.
Yeah, and made
Top
sure
five
that
to
the aspect
visit.
ratios worked
Mm-hmm.
both for desktop and mobile, because you kind of see
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. You're not feeling cheated
Right,
on
right.
mobile.
Choose your happy days. See you in Venice. Awesome
Boy,
job.
if there weren't a pandemic now, I would be booking
I
a
know.
flight very quickly
Yes,
to Venice
yes.
off the back of that.
I know. I agree. That'll do it. Yeah. Let's see. We've got maybe time for just one more. Um, which one do you want to look at? Any preference?
Let's go medical. I mean,
Medical. Okay.
seems very relevant.
This one is Docs Medical Mobile App. That's cool. Neat little pulse sort of logo.
I wonder if
About
she
the
did the logo
project.
design.
Yeah.
So
So
I
mobile
suppose
app. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the only thing that perhaps is not super clear to me, and I don't know whether it's somewhere, is how much of what we see has been done by her.
Sure.
Like, it would be super cool if she did that logo, but it's not 100% clear
Right.
whether that was part of the
Yeah. A little
project.
more info on that would be good to know. Or like the illustrations or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just for my own benefit, because I would love to use those illustrations too, if they're open
Yeah.
source or something. So
Ooh,
about the
sketches.
project, yeah, I love seeing sketches. So it's a mobile app that links doctors and patients through video, voice, and text chats, and allows patients to search for certain doctors and book their appointment. Also, an opportunity to find the nearest pharmacies on the map. Cool. Do you ever do sketches yourself, or do you usually just like skip
Oh,
straight
yes,
to? Do
I
you?
do. So I am so basic. I still sketch on paper, but I
Awesome.
also have an iPad Pro with a
Mm-hmm.
pencil that I use for sort of because I don't always go into low fidelity wireframes in like XD.
Yeah.
I might sketch them out first, and then if I'm confident that I've got things sorted, then go straight into building a high fidelity or mid fidelity thing.
Okay. You're a rare on that. I feel like a lot of people don't do like paper sketches anymore, but I love to see it.
Oh, I love sketching so much. I think it's because I really like my own writing. So.
And we've got a user flow chart.
It's a proper UX
yes. Even like user flows, you don't see those too much anymore.
No, you don't.
Typography, Sen. Another one. I don't think I've seen that one before either.
No, me neither.
Patients applications. We've got some login screens. Main search and document searching. These are a little hard to see, I would say. That's like my only thing.
Yeah.
Like have to look the other way. Doctor screens.
It might be the white on white.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And booking appointment. Cool. Looks pretty straightforward, just like choosing a time. Patient profile and appointment history. What do you think about the like kind of monochromatic, just like only blue?
I love
she's using. Yeah. it feels very like doctory.
So blue is supposed to be the color that most incites trust in people. So it's a great color for something like a doctor, or lots of banks have blue because again, sort of a calm, trusting or trusted color. So designing for emotion is probably my top one or top two aspects of design.
Interesting. It's a fun fact. Good thing to know.
Yeah.
Doctor's applications. We've got schedules. Again, like super built out. We've got a ton of screens here. Communication screens.
I mean, these all have to be real. Oh, that's very current.
Yeah.
It's COVID-19.
So she must have just done this within like the last few months.
Yeah. And I mean, they have to be real. If this is the sort of energy people are putting into side projects, wow.
Right. There's no hope for people like me then.
No.
Cool.
Oh, I love that little animation there.
So cute. And just like at the end of each of these, it's just so playful. I love that.
I feel like that's motivation to always go to the bottom of our
So
portfolio.
true.
Elements.
So true. Awesome. Okay. Well, there we go. Katarina, if you're watching, thank you so much for sharing your work. We have like just a few minutes left. If you want to, we can, I mean, you already kind of went over your designs, but if you just want to kind of review what you did today again, super quick, and like what you're going to work on tomorrow, give a little overview for people that are just tuning in, that would be great.
Sure. Is my screen sharing now?
Let's see. Let me stop sharing. And just a moment, we'll switch the screens. Cool, yes.
Okay, so just to remind everyone of what we did today, we had a look at some conceptual wireframes, using that as a way to introduce anyone who wasn't familiar with XD to the tool. And then we added some basic interaction to our concepts. Tomorrow, we're going to add a bit more functionality to our app. Let's just go down to the app a little bit. So all of this will be designed. There'll be a bit of color, there'll be imagery in all of the places that I have placeholders. We'll also look at some of the functionality that you get when you're prototyping with XD, including things like scroll groups and responsive resizing, content-aware layouts. We're also going to do voice, which is probably very exciting for anyone who hasn't done voice prototyping before. Very, very exciting. We're going to touch on that tomorrow as well.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for your wrap up. Guys, that is about all the time that we have left for today. I'm very excited to join you again tomorrow. Same time, same place, you know. And thank you so much, Chimmy, for being our guest of honor today. And that is it, guys. Don't go anywhere because in about 5 minutes, we've got our XD Daily Creative Challenge with Howard Pinsky. So stay tuned for that. Bye, guys.
It's been a pleasure, Andrea. See you all tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye, guys.